The atmosphere around Celtic tonight carries a weight that goes far beyond a normal European group stage fixture. In a matter of hours, Celtic Park will host a match that could quietly define how this entire season is remembered. This is the final game of the Europa League phase, and the reality is brutally simple. Fail to win, and Europe is likely finished for the season. Some supporters feel drained by that idea. Others feel almost resigned to it. But this is one of those nights where the consequences ripple much further than 90 minutes of football. This is not just about progression. It is about credibility, momentum, and belief at a time when all three feel fragile. The build-up has been unusual, even by Celtic standards. The press conference ahead of this match left plenty of supporters shaking their heads rather than feeling reassured. There was a strange opening exchange that drifted into territory that felt disconnected from the actual football, and it did little to calm a fan base already stretched thin by weeks of uncertainty. What people wanted was clarity, direction, and reassurance. What they got instead was a reminder that this club is still wrestling with far more than just the opponent waiting on the pitch tonight. Transfer talk continues to dominate every conversation, and it is impossible to separate this match from what is happening off the field. With only a handful of days left before the transfer deadline, the message coming out of the club was hardly encouraging. There is no guarantee of new signings arriving before the weekend, and that alone tells its own story. When you consider the clear gaps in the squad and the need for reinforcements in multiple areas, that lack of certainty feels like another warning sign. The timing is uncomfortable, the optics are poor, and the pressure continues to build. There has been a noticeable attempt to use humor to soften the tension, but that approach is not landing well with everyone. Supporters are anxious, frustrated, and desperate for signs of ambition. When light-hearted answers meet serious questions about squad depth and planning, the reaction is predictable. That irritation, however, should not be aimed at the man standing in front of the cameras. The deeper frustration lies elsewhere, with those responsible for ensuring the squad is ready long before deadlines loom. The manager can only work with what he has, and it is hard to believe he is not feeling the strain himself. There was at least some honesty about how this situation developed. The January transfer window is notoriously difficult, especially when clubs are reluctant to sell and prices can change in minutes. On top of that, there was an admission that preparation for this window was far from ideal. Uncertainty over the managerial situation meant that planning started late, and once that happens, the knock-on effect can be severe. Targets shift, opportunities disappear, and suddenly you are reacting rather than leading. That is exactly where Celtic appear to be right now. Perhaps the most revealing insight was the idea of transfer lists and how quickly plans can unravel. What looks like a perfect fit one moment can become impossible the next due to price changes, competition from wealthier clubs, or sudden shifts in circumstances. There is a clear reluctance to panic and drop too far down the list just to fill numbers. In principle, that sounds sensible. In reality, it also raises the risk of waiting too long and ending up with very little at all. That balancing act is one Celtic have struggled with before, and supporters fear history may be repeating itself. There was also a telling comment about wanting players who can beat an opponent, something explosive, something that can change a game. That points directly toward the need for a winger, an area where Celtic have lacked consistency and threat. The absence of genuine pace and directness has been obvious, particularly in Europe, and it is no secret that this is a priority. Whether that need is addressed in time remains one of the biggest questions hanging over the club. Naturally, transfer rumors have filled the gap. Names linked with strong European performances spark excitement, but that excitement often fades just as quickly when the financial reality becomes clear. Players with rising reputations and increasing value rarely fit Celtic's current approach. More realistic are those whose careers have stalled elsewhere, players searching for a reset, a platform to rediscover form and confidence. That strategy has worked before, but it is not without risk, and it demands sharp recruitment and clear planning. Alongside potential arrivals, there is also the question of departures. Interest from abroad in squad players has been turned away, largely because the club does not want to weaken an already thin group without replacements secured. That stance is understandable, but it also underlines how little room for maneuver there is right now. Every decision feels interconnected, and every delay compounds the pressure. All of that brings the focus back to tonight. Celtic against Utrecht at Celtic Park, under the lights with a European future on the line. Form has been inconsistent, confidence has dipped, but European nights in Glasgow have a habit of creating their own energy. The crowd will be there, the stakes are clear, and the equation is simple: win, and Celtic move into the next phase. Draw or lose, and the season narrows dramatically. Utrecht arrive with little to play for in terms of progression, but that does not mean they will roll over. Their European campaign has been disappointing, yet they have remained competitive in most matches, often losing by narrow margins. They have already taken points from strong opposition, and they have shown they can stay in games. Complacency would be fatal, especially for a Celtic side that has struggled to dominate consistently. There is also a familiar face returning between the posts for the visitors, a reminder of a previous chapter that did not end well. The narrative around that return has been respectful but honest, and it adds another layer of intrigue to the night. Utrecht themselves appear set to rotate, with domestic priorities taking precedence, but even a changed side will carry enough quality to punish mistakes. Team news offers a mixed picture. Suspensions and registration issues rule out several options, limiting flexibility once again. There are, however, small signs of encouragement, with players returning to training and edging closer to fitness. Managing those returns carefully is crucial. Rushing players back has cost Celtic dearly in the past, and with so much still to play for domestically, caution is essential. Tonight, though, everything narrows to one focus: the noise around transfers. Planning and long-term strategy fades once the whistle blows. What remains is a team that must find a way to win, to respond to pressure, and to remind everyone what European nights at Celtic Park can still mean. As the countdown to kickoff continues, the tactical side of this match becomes impossible to ignore, because Celtic are walking into this game with very little margin for error. There is an expectation that experience will be trusted once again, particularly in a European setting where game management has often been the difference between progress and disappointment. The goalkeeper selection feels straightforward, with reliability valued over experimentation, while the defensive line is likely to reflect recent European choices rather than domestic rotation. That alone tells you how seriously this match is being taken behind the scenes, regardless of the noise surrounding the club. At fullback, there is a sense that familiarity will win out. Players who understand the pace and physicality of European football are expected to start, even if their domestic form has fluctuated. In the center, the emphasis will be on solidity rather than adventure. Clean sheets have been rare, but the priority tonight is control, limiting mistakes and avoiding the kind of chaotic moments that have undermined Celtic so often in continental competition. One lapse, one poorly judged pass could undo everything. Midfield selection feels even more critical. This is where the game could be won or lost. The balance between control and urgency must be right from the opening minutes. Too cautious, and Celtic risk allowing Utrecht to grow into the match. Too open, and they invite the kind of counter-attacks that have hurt them repeatedly. Leadership will be vital here, especially from players expected to dictate tempo and keep emotions in check when nerves inevitably surface. Further forward, the attacking trio carries both hope and frustration. There is pace, there is movement, but consistency has been elusive. Too often this season, promising positions have ended with poor decisions or a lack of conviction. Tonight demands clarity. When chances come, they must be taken. There may not be many, and there is no room for wastefulness. The atmosphere will demand urgency, but composure will be just as important. The opposition may rotate, but that does not make them harmless. Utrecht's European campaign has been disappointing on paper, yet their performances suggest a team that competes, even when results do not follow. Narrow defeats tell a story of resilience, of staying alive in matches, and that is precisely what makes them dangerous. A side with nothing to lose can play with freedom, and Celtic have struggled against that mentality before. There is also the psychological element of playing a team already eliminated. Utrecht's focus lies domestically, but players stepping in tonight will be eager to prove themselves. This is an opportunity for them, a chance to impress, and those are often the most unpredictable opponents. Celtic cannot afford to assume anything. Every duel, every second ball, every set piece matters. The return of a former Celtic goalkeeper adds another emotional subplot. It is a reminder of how quickly football moves on and how unforgiving it can be. His time in Glasgow did not unfold as hoped, yet he arrives now with experience, motivation, and a point to prove. That alone could elevate his performance. Goalkeepers in these situations often rise to the occasion, and Celtic's attackers must be prepared for resistance. From the sidelines, the management will feel the pressure as much as anyone. European home games carry a different weight, especially when qualification is on the line. Decisions made during the match, substitutions, tactical tweaks, and responses to momentum shifts will be scrutinized heavily. There is little room for error, and patience may be tested if the breakthrough does not come early. The officiating also becomes part of the conversation, particularly with an inexperienced referee overseeing such a high-stakes encounter. European nights at Celtic Park are intense, loud, and emotionally charged. How that atmosphere is managed could influence the flow of the game. Celtic must remain disciplined, avoiding needless bookings or confrontations that could swing momentum away from them. Beyond tonight, there is the broader context of what progression would mean. Advancing to the next round would not suddenly solve the issues facing the club, but it would offer breathing space. It would provide additional matches, additional revenue, and perhaps, most importantly, belief. Belief that this season can still carry meaning beyond domestic obligations. A belief that despite the flaws, there is still something to build on. Failure, on the other hand, would shrink the season dramatically. Without Europe, focus shifts entirely to domestic competitions and the pressure intensifies. Questions about recruitment, planning, and ambition would only grow louder. And that is why this match feels so pivotal. It sits at the intersection of short-term results and long-term perception. Supporters know this. The crowd tonight will not need motivation. They understand what is at stake, and they understand how rare, meaningful European nights have become. That knowledge fuels both hope and anxiety. The expectation is not perfection, but effort, courage, and a sense of purpose. And anything less will be met with frustration. There is also the looming reality of the transfer deadline. Whatever happens tonight, the clock keeps ticking. Progressing in Europe could influence decisions, perhaps even unlock opportunities that currently feel out of reach. Conversely, elimination could harden positions, narrow options, and reinforce a conservative approach. Football decisions are rarely isolated, and this match is no exception. Injury management remains another concern. Players returning from long absences bring optimism, but also risk. The temptation to rush them back is understandable, especially when attacking options feel limited, yet the cost of doing so prematurely could be severe. The second half of the season will demand depth and durability, and sacrificing that for short-term gain would be dangerous. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. The rumour mill around Glasgow is spinning again, and this time it is fueled by a familiar laugh. KRIS Boyd, never shy of a sharp word when the cameras are rolling, has been heard chuckling at what he calls a grim spectacle across the city. According to the former Rangers striker, the football coming from Celtic just now is ugly to watch, the kind that makes you wince rather than lean forward in your seat. In Boyd's telling, this is not simply a jibe for the sake of rivalry, but a sign of something shifting beneath the surface of the title race. The speculation doing the rounds is that Rangers sense blood. Boyd's claim that the Ibrox side will be top before the month is out has been seized upon by supporters and pundits alike as more than pub talk. Whisper it quietly, but there is a feeling that momentum, that most Scottish of football buzzwords, might be swinging. Celtic are still grinding, still collecting what they need, but the style is under scrutiny. The passing looks laboured, the press half a second slow, the crowd restless even when things are going their way. Rangers, by contrast, are being talked up as sharper, leaner, and more ruthless. No one is putting numbers on it, and no one dares predict a specific afternoon when the table might flip, but the belief is there. Boyd's laughter has become a soundbite, passed from phone to phone, a provocation that suits a club thriving on the idea of the chase. Of course, this is Glasgow, where rumours grow legs quickly. Celtic will argue that pretty football wins no extra points and that experience counts when the nights draw in. Rangers will privately enjoy the noise, knowing how much pressure it adds across the divide. Whether Boyd's bold talk proves prophetic or premature, it has added another layer of edge to a rivalry that never needs much encouragement. In the west of Scotland, perception can matter almost as much as performance, and right now, the perception is shifting. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.